Hi, I'm Blisy. Hey guys, if you enjoy this video, I appreciate a like, comment, sub, and little bell notification. Thanks so much, enjoy.
Hey everyone, this is going to be a fun, I think, different storytime video than I've ever made before. It's a Dungeons and Dragons related, where if you haven't played D&D or anything like that, you don't really have to have played to get what's going on in the story, but it's just something that over the last, I think 4 years has become pretty like important part of my life, and I've been wanting to do like a little video on this for a while. So yeah, it's gonna be a little story time, and then going over a fun custom race I made and why I ended up making the custom race, because of a big old meme. So back when I first started playing D&D a few years ago, it was because a friend of mine wanted to start up a campaign, and I was sort of in a weird spot at the time where I was worried it was like too nerdy, and also I had like really bad anxiety. And when I was making my character, I just kind of made them, I think it's like a typical tropey thing to make them like sort of not even like physically, I guess an idealized version of yourself, and then also just like going like chaotic neutral, just to like go and do whatever you want. And I was a rogue. I like to play like stealthy character, or I thought I liked to play stealthy characters in video games, I guess at the time. I like quick in and out movements, and that's what the rogue seemed like. And when I was going over the languages in the player's handbook, I was looking them over, and I think I got 2 languages since I was a human. I was a human rogue named Trapezius Milkington, and I was looking through the languages. I get to pick common, which is just a normal language, and I see undercommon, and I was like, what's undercommon? Is this like a language for underground mole people? And the dungeon master was just, and not even just the DM, my other friend who put the game together, who had played before, because everyone besides the DM and one player, I don't think they'd ever played before. And so the DM and the player who had played before were like, no, it's not like for mole people. It's just like it's like a language that like underground like elves or whatever speak. And I'm like, are there like giant mole people in D&D I could use this to speak to? And they were like, no, and they were like, it's like a useless language unless you're going into this specific place called the Under. And I was like, no, I'm taking it. I want to talk to mole people. And it was just like a big joke. Like wherever I'd go, I'd be like, I was like, oh, I asked, like they were like, oh, they don't understand your language, and I'm like, I speak it in undercommon, and they're like, they still don't understand. I got no use out of the whole campaign, and the character lived for pretty much the whole campaign, but it was partially because I was like I said, like half the sessions I probably didn't show up basically because of anxiety or whatever. But it was a nice release for me in terms of like a de-stressor, I guess. And so when now onto the story of how this race got created. So after that game ended, there was a small falling out in our, not small, but there's a bit of a falling out in our group where we weren't willing to play with one of the players anymore. And we had to start a new separate game of D&D. Luckily, it happened after the campaign finished. I think it was probably close. I think it was like, it had to have been a year that the campaign took to finish, but I don't remember very well. So the campaign ends, and we get to we all want to play more, and I decide, okay, I'll DM. I really want to play. I had DM'd a one-shot before. Let's get a game together in my house, and I'll DM. And I wasn't very confident, but I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun DMing the one-shot, and I was like, well, all of us are newbies at this point, right? Like the only game we played in was the one, so it shouldn't be that rough. And I started off with the 5e starter pack of Lost Mines of Phandelver, because we had not played it yet. And I basically started writing my own story before they even got to Phandalin. Like, I just used the hook, and I used the little mini dungeon off the side of the road on the path to Phandalin, and by the time we had gotten to Phandalin, I was like, well, I can make Phandalin the whole thing that I want to make it, and I got it. Like, it clicked with me pretty fast, and so to close out on a meme, because most of the players from the previous game were in this game, I ended up making a underground mole people who all spoke Undercommon as a big payoff to my year-long pandering of, hey, do they speak Undercommon? They didn't live in Phandalin, but I'll give the little bit of them. I have some extra lore like written down in my little DM book here. But basically, here you can see I should have just put it on screen now. Some mole people that I've made, and I'm just going to go over the custom race that I made. This has undergone a lot of changes. Specifically, actually, last night I basically did close to, not necessarily my final revisions, but like I think pretty close to what will be final revisions on these guys. So yeah, thanks to James, Pete, and Chris for really hammering out like details with me, because these started as basically like an NPC only race where they were just a bunch of they weren't enemies, they're mostly the good guys, right? And so they started out as NPCs in my world, and so they were pretty overpowered in terms of all the stuff they could get. And I did end up giving sort of forcing one of my players to play as the mole. I had like a thing where I had a thing where the player died, and because of the mole's lore, I made the mole. I made him come back to life, but as a mole, because the god who saved him is the one who created the mole people. So like that's what she could create. So his spirit went into a different body, and he got to play as a sort of overpowered version of the moles that all the NPCs were. But it's fine. So. I guess I'll just read some of the lore and all that I've written onto the page here, and I'll go over like their stats and all this stuff, and there'll be a shareable link for anyone who wants to just like take a look at it or use it or whatever, and I'll post it in my Discord and stuff. And like, you know, me and my friends aren't like, I mean, my friends Chris and James are like game designers, like that's what they do. That's like, I know Chris going to school for it. James, I don't know if it's just like his hobby or whatever, but both. I think he does. It's like a hobby and what he wants to do. So, I trust them a lot. But like, if you have any feedback on these creatures, let me know. I take it all to heart. And so I'll talk to you. This is where it gets more D&D nerdy, statsy, and less story-y. Okay. The first for the formatting here, all of the races start off with like a little quote. Oh, I actually meant to be putting. They all start off with like a little quote or like a little story or something. So that's what this starts off with. We do not tolerate lies in this city, exclaimed Sihala. The king of the great city-state of Molantis was not pleased. Before him sat two thieves, begging for forgiveness, claiming their ways would change. The two had been harassing local shipments, going from the city-state to its territories for weeks, and it became apparent through the zone of truth that their intentions were not going to change. I may be forgiving, but I am not foolish or weak. I gave you a chance at first, but you squandered it. Throw them away while they wait for trial. And so that's just like the little lore thing about kind of how these people act. The next one is just a little blurb generally about what these people are like. A Spartanly people, most mole folk value truth, strength, and their community above all else. While moles often spend their days within their kingdom working to improve their lives, craft, and the lives of those around them, many recognize the only way to spread the prosperity and quality of life they have is to leave. So this is just like a short blurb about what they're all about. On this picture of mole people, this is pretty much what I imagine them to look like. I did not base them off of this image, right? But this is Baku Ryu from Bloody Roar. There's actually 2 pictures of him. There's another. I'll scroll down really quick. This is another picture of a different Bakuryu. This is. I can't remember, but I was trying to explain what they looked like, and I had played this game before, but it was never mine. And my friend Connor was just like, "Here, look, this is the right like Bakuryu from Bloody Roar." And I was like, "This is exactly what they look like. This is exactly." Because another player in my game was like, "Oh, I thought they looked like naked mole rats," and I was like, "No, that's not what they look like." Okay, so then I have some more lore here, explaining why there are mole people. This is the thing about this is sort of their race is sort of tied to where they live, I guess, and so I mean it's the thing is I tried to make a city that's easy to put into a game, like a city-state that's easy to kind of shove underground into any game world, and so it says punished by a god. In my game, there's a specific god. I made up the god. I just named them Mitra. I just made up a god. I didn't use any existing D&D god, although those gods existed in my world. So I wrote punished by a god, and I don't explain which god is the one that punishes them because that, I don't know, I just wanted to give more malleability if anyone ever wanted to use it in their game for whatever reason. I know this isn't going to be a very big video or whatever, but if anyone ever wanted to use it, then, yeah, I just wanted to make it more malleable, so... once the capital city of a large human majority empire that dominated the lands because of its location near magic ore mines, the city-state of Molantis, which is the city that they are from, was forced underground and sealed magically from the outside world, with its population turned into large humanoid moles by divine power to restore balance to the world and punish the empire for its greed. This caused a split in the residents, and those that believed the only way forward was to accept this punishment by worshipping the gods, rejecting the magic that caused such greed, and learning to live morally stayed in the city. There, however, were those that felt resentful of such a punishment and rejected such ideas. These people left the bounds of the city looting and scrounging to survive. So this is sort of, in my game, they were a secret because they were still sealed when the players found them, and they helped kind of unseal them. In other worlds, they could be free already, and this doesn't inform much except their history, right? This informs why they tend to be a religious people because they view that they have to repent. So yeah, you can either have them start out in a secretive state and your players could find and save them, or you know, you can have them already be in your world, kind of chilling, be one of the uncommon races like Dragonborn or whatever. The way the ceiling works is in like an underground. It's like a large underground city basically, and then there's like a big spherical bubble around that's like a magic bubble around that city, or like a divine magic bubble or whatever around that city. That so like without living literally in the city, the other parts, the apostate version of these people kind of form like little small thievy communities that just kind of loot the city when they can. So moving on, this sort of informs more about what the city is like after it's freed. Molantis is an extremely self-sufficient city-state. More than the basic needs of its citizens are covered by the state, and those resources are divided fairly as possible. It's like very commie paradisey. Once a Molantian is done serving a compulsory military service, I forgot to write military, I'll fix that. They are free to choose whatever trade or craft they would like to pursue, and can live how they would like. So many moles never choose to leave. The initial reason many left their city was to explore the new world once their curse was lifted. So if you have a game where they're freed, like the players free them, or they're freed very closely to the players, this is the reason most moles would leave. However, many citizens choose to become explorers and adventurers because they believe part of their duty and morality as people should be to spread the prosperity of Molantis, the prosperity Molantis has gained through its self-sufficiency. So part of their sort of way is they believe like a very, they believe that they have to share their wealth and their prosperity in many different ways. They don't really have a currency that's used within their system. A lot of them just go out and do charity work. We'll just do adventuring for very little or for free work. They don't really believe in prosperity through this isn't like an imperialism type of thing where they're going over taking things. What happens a lot of the time is they leave and they help out like neighboring cities, and those like neighboring cities or towns end up just gaining like a lot from living or being near Molantis, and they just end up like wishing to join and go under the protection of the city-state and sort of adopting their culture is the way they end up annexing or expanding or however you want. Those who existed as apostates living in the outskirts did not necessarily believe Molantis to have ever been a paradise, and while many do stay around because leeching off a prosperous city is not the most difficult thing to do, some do have aspirations for better lives. So this is why the like thieving apostate type of moles would leave. Like, yeah, it's easy to stay around and just like loot people who come by because it's so prosperous, but a lot of them leave just because they want a better life and they don't have to be around these citizens that they kind of don't like very much. So their appearance, they're actually much bigger than you think. I made them 6 to 8 feet tall with short fur that can be varying shades of brown to black. This color fades to gray or salt and pepper as they grow old. And male moles tend to also have like thin facial hair at the end of their snouts. A typical mole will be fairly broad-shouldered with a large upper body and have wide feet. And despite their large stature, they're surprisingly agile. So like in this picture of this mole, like he has little whiskers here for their little beards and stuff. Imagine instead of, I mean, they could even have whiskers as well, but they have like little mustaches that can go down, and they can have like at the bottom of their snout maybe like a little goatee or whatever if they want. For names, the way the naming worked is actually really funny. I like to randomly generate names from my DM sheet that I had where you can roll a die, and I sort of took that naming convention and I put a little history behind it, and I did a little bit of changing. But basically, moles have 3 names, 1 given, 1 picked, and 1 family. Each one is only 1 syllable and is divided by a dash. The first name is given by the parents at birth. The middle name is chosen by themselves once adulthood is reached, and the last is the family name. In formal situations, the full name is referenced, and the full name is always used when speaking to a mole in a position of power over you, such as an elder relative, superior at work, or the king. In casual situations, just the first name is typically used, though some moles prefer to use their chosen middle name, and names are not gendered in any way at all. Example names: Varashal. That's actually, I'm playing a mole in my friend's campaign now. That's the name of that mole. And Sihalet is the name of a very popular, the first mole they met, and probably the most popular mole. And it just goes on like that. You could just make them up on the fly. All of these names were just made up on the spot, like last night when I was typing this up. Korjaku. There's one I really liked. Il Airshu I like a lot, so yeah. T-Soron, like it's just fun stuff. You just make them up. Friends to all but their enemies. This is sort of a fun video exploring like what they're like or whatever. Most moles are typically they trust first, and you just don't want to cross them. They have a similar lifespan, and their species once was human many years, hundreds of years ago. So they get along with most races easily. But the only ones they don't like is the Drow, Diergar, and the Sverv Neblin. I have so much trouble pronouncing that, which is like the deep races, because their city tends to be underground. It can rise up if you save them. You have to choose to do that, become an above the ground city. But since it's near the under, usually they get harassed by these races a lot. Now we get into the stats stuff. The traits are your strength increases by 2, your age around the same rate as humans, reaching adulthood at 18, and you live to around 150 years old. Mole folk, for their alignment, tend to rarely end up as evil, and most are typically defined by their upbringing. Citizens are typically lawful and good, while apostates tend to be neutral and can land anywhere on that spectrum from good to evil. Like, so they can be, or excuse me, I actually wrote this wrong, but by neutral I meant they tend to be neutral, and they can fall anywhere along that, but most likely chaotic neutral or chaotic good. Moles are anywhere from 6 to 8 feet tall and weigh an average of 250 to 300 pounds. Your base walking speed is 30 feet, and this is where the most unique thing comes in. You have 10 feet of burrow as well. So they're moles, they dig. You have 10 feet of burrow. It's a pretty fun movement. Dark vision, you can see 60 feet in the dark, and only shades of gray. Mole claws, you have a natural weapon, which is used to make unarmed strikes. If you hit them, you deal slashing damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier instead of bludgeoning damage for your normal unarmed strike. Language, you can speak, read, and write common and undercommon. There you go, the undercommon. You also have 2 subrace choices based on the dynamic of the city-state. You have the citizen, and you have the apostate. So a citizen is raised in Molantis, or a territory of the city-state, and a citizen has served their time in the military and shares many of the values of truth, strength, and practicality. Naturally strong and charismatic, these moles believe in their society, their god, and wish the world to be as good as Molantis. Ability score increase, your charisma increases by 1. Truth above all. You may cast the spell Zone of Truth once per day with this skill. Charisma is the saving throw the enemy would have to make. Anti-magic training. So, moles sort of... Where was it? It was in... here. Yeah, in the Punished by God. So, they don't like the magics because they sort of view it as part of their greed, and also they're a little fearful of it because it's how they were punished by the god. So, like, part of the lore that I had written down, I had, like I said, like a whole little book here of stuff written. I didn't want to write everything in here. Because it's just supposed to be like, it's literally supposed to try and replicate a character sheet as well as, or like the player's handbook race sheet as much as possible. So basically they become fearful and distasteful towards magic, and this is because most magic, the only magic they like is their divine magic. So a lot of that, like their military tends to be like a lot of paladins and clerics because they worship their god and they use magic that way, but they tend to not like regular magic because there was like a magical mine nearby that they would ore and make weapons and stuff like out of, and that's how they conquered, and so they view it as like a very bad thing to be using that. And so their military training provided by their military service grants citizens the ability to easily see openings while wizards cast spells complacently. When a creature within your reach casts a spell, you can take I'm very messed up this spelling here, but basically, when a creature within your reach casts a spell, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon opportunity attack against that creature. This is just one part of the... It used to be you just gained the Mage Slayer feat. I was told that was too powerful. Personally, I didn't think Mage Slayer was too powerful, but I saw where my friends were coming from, so I decided to change it on, like, sort of caution. Yeah, so I don't know. I might make it back to the other one, but I think it'll stay as is for now. Molantian military training. You gain proficiency in war picks, which is their like main military weapon, medium armor, and the religion skill. It should also be light and medium armor, but yeah. So that's what the citizen gains. I don't know if these... It feels like their bonuses might be too low, but I don't know. I think I might be undervaluing natural weapons and Burrow. Burrow is pretty cool. But yeah, anti-magic training might go back to the full thing. We'll see, of the feat. So we'll go to the apostate, which is what I imagine them to look similar to. Living outside the city-state, resenting the gods for their curse, these moles rely on stealth, thievery, and cunning to survive. Often scraping by, living a meager existence, they take whatever they can without remorse. So your dexterity increases by 1. Take what you can. You gain the Mage Hand cantrip along with Mage Hand Ledgerman, which lets you use Thieves' Tools, pickpockets, and turn Mage Hand invisible. You can do this twice per day. So Mage Hand Ledgerman is like very, very powerful, and it's like a class like kind of upgrade, right, for like one of the thieves. I was told it was much too powerful by everyone. I kind of agree as well. So you can use Mage Hand whenever you want. That's a cantrip you just get, but you can only turn it invisible and use it for Thieves' Tools and pickpocketing twice a day is kind of how I balance that out. And you also gain proficiency in Thieves' Tools. Apostate weapon training. You gain proficiency in daggers, short swords, and hands crossbows. This is just the natural weapons of these peoples. A quick escape. You can use Swift Burrow once per day, letting you not take an attack of opportunity when burrowing. So this is kind of like to represent their thieveriness, where they can be next to someone, they can just burrow and not take an attack of opportunity. And so that's just all of the stats and abilities and all that of the race. So let me know what you think in terms of balance, and you know, if they're too weak, they're too strong, blah blah. What you think thematically of it. Again, PDF's going to be I'll link it as a comment basically. And I will go over for maybe 2 more minutes just a few extra little fun things about these people. So one of the things about them is they are they're pretty much obligate herbivores where they have to eat vegetables to survive. So most of them are what we call vegetarians, but they can't survive off of only meat. They could eat meat if they wanted to. So their diet is mostly fungi and root vegetables, and most moles don't eat meat at all, especially if raised within the city, in accordance with their teachings. Moles that live as thieves eat whatever they can get, though. And their favorite type of mushrooms, I wasn't sure. I was thinking about making it shiitake, but I also was going to go with portobello. I think it's shiitake is like a delicacy for them. So yeah, they pretty much only eat like these like special mushrooms that provide most of their sustenance, along with root vegetables that easily grow underground. They will eat some meats if they have to, but it cannot sustain them. It's similar to how like a wolf is mostly a carnivore, right? They're pretty much a carnivore, but they can eat berries and stuff if they're like really starving and they can't find any veggies and stuff like that. So and cats are similar, like house cats. House cats are carnivores. House cats can't survive without eating meat. But like my big boy Figgy, wherever he is, he'll eat a Cheeto, but it's not sustenance. Oh yeah, their values. I wrote like core values basically. Their core values are truth, strength, practicality, their people, and their divinity. Those are like the core strengths of a mole person. And even the thieves, even the apostates within each other value these things. They won't value it necessarily to the citizens, right? And I think that's pretty much it. I have a few different things, like I have a few pages describing the life in the city. I'll read it quickly. Citizens of the city-state have no money to spend. Resources are divided equally. And most are happy with this system. You're allowed to do what you wish for a living, and you can leave whenever you wish. There is a compulsory paladin school / military service for 5 years once you turn 20. The military does everything from actual war to constructing... oh man, I can't read that word. It got smudged. But basically, whatever the citizens need, the military like kind of becomes a public service for, right? So like they'll do construction, carpentry. They'll just do general like going around feeding people. Basically, whatever needs. So these needs are decided by petitions to the king, and the king is an elected official. It's just called the king. Basically, in the lore, there was literally a king. And after they became the mole people, the king just became an elected position, and the name never changed, is why it's done like that. So basically, the way it works is you can do whatever you want as your trade, and you'll just provide it to the city as needed. You can trade with outside people as well for currency, although that currency isn't very valuable within the city. And so you'll provide whatever you need to whoever needs it, and they'll provide you services in return, etc. Sort of similar to a barter system, but much more... Everyone just wants everyone within the city. Everyone just wants everyone to survive. And whatever the city tends to need most, the military tends to step in and just do, right? Like, they're not even exclusively a military, right? It's like they just are. That's how, if things aren't being met by the natural demand of people, right? Like if there aren't enough carpenters or plumbers or something like that, the military just steps in and just gets those people to do, like gets their folks in the military to do those things. And once, by the way, these are not like an insular community. Once this becomes a surface city, like once their curse is released, they're not strictly moles. They'll allow anyone to be in any position of anything. Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about it, if you want me to do I was thinking about, if you like this kind of video, I was thinking about, I'm gonna add lore onto this, like a third page here, like more expanded lore about what it was like in my game and all that kind of thing. And if you're interested in me writing I was thinking about doing like a one-off, like writing like a little module that you could fit into your campaign, about like, you know, saving these people basically, because in my game, my players found the secret underground city kind of broken and freed their curse. Because they knew that they were good people. So if you want to, I was thinking about writing like a module type of thing for that to fit in pretty much any campaign as like a mini side quest thing. If you're interested in that, let me know. If you're interested in more videos about D&D or about my D&D experience, let me know. I know this is a long video. I never intended it to be this long, but man, that's just what happened, huh? So yeah, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time. I'd just like to take a second at the end of the video to thank my sponsors and donators. You guys are awesome. I can't say enough how much I appreciate all of your support, and big love to you all from me. Thanks so much, guys. I wouldn't be able to do it without you all.